another shadow box. Ever since doing the first one, I had ideas, really I think since before I finished the first one, about what to do as a follow-up. This is the jungle-themed one that I had originally created for Predator, but the Phantom has been inside ever since. I had ideas for a new shadow box, but none of them really jumped out at me until a couple of months ago. Berg and I were reviewing the Wolfman for the Shotgun Toy Reviews channel, and the packaging for Wolfman includes this, I think, amazing backdrop of a forest at night, right? It's kind of hard to see. It's glossy paper, but you've got a little bit of sticks and foliage at the bottom there, and you've just got some sticks in the background. And I thought, you know, a dark forest would be awesome. The jungle is kind of, I don't know, it's specific in a way that's a little bit more difficult as far as toys go, whereas a dark forest is a little bit more versatile. So while it was intended for the Wolfman, I think it is more flexible as far as what toys go inside there. One of the things people asked about when I made the first shadow box was, who's the manufacturer? And I had already thrown out the packaging for that, so this time I snapped a picture before throwing it out. This is a shot with the back of the shadow box taken out, so you can see there's still glass in the front, and one of the first things I do is remove these 4 boards. Those pry out pretty easily, and then once those are out, the glass comes out as well. Attached to the back plate of the shadow box is this foam, and if you were using it like a proper shadow box, that is what you would pin things to. The foam came off pretty easily, but I did have some cleanup after the fact. This chunk there. As awesome as the NECA packaging was, it just wasn't wide enough for what I needed. So I did scour a couple of stock photo websites, and I found this image that I thought was going to work well for me. And a friend of mine is a photographer. He has a very nice photo printer, very large photo printer. And so I had him print this out for me. What I needed was, since the back of it is 8x8 and its depth is 2 inches, I needed something that was 12 by 12. I think he printed this out at something like 13 by 16. It was massive. So I needed to cut it, and that is what this is. This is the image cut down. That's the back plate and the 4 sides. After this, I just glued those things into place. This is what that looked like before I put the tree inside. One thing I want to point out is the new shadow box is a different manufacturer from the old one, so it is clearly a much larger box. There's this bezel around the edge, whereas this is flat. And one of the key differences for me is the old box actually has this groove that the clips slide into. The new box does not have that. The new box, the clips are flush with the back. The difference that makes is these clips prevent the back piece from going backwards. This also prevents it from going forward into the shadow box. So once I removed those 4 spacer boards around the edge, the back piece can move forward or backwards. I'll show off a little bit later, but I actually used foam up in the corners of this to prevent it from moving forward. Here is the foam that I was talking about. I stuck a piece up here in this corner and another one in this corner. I did just cut that off of an old piece of foam from the original shadow box, actually, and then I painted it black, hopefully to hide it. This one's better hidden than this one, but I don't think most people are going to be looking up, and I don't think they're going to see it anyway. So I did stick a couple of pieces of foam in there just to space it and to hold the back plate from moving forward. The 4 wooden slats that I removed accomplished the same thing, except I removed those, and then once I did, I needed to put something else in place to prevent it from happening. So I'm using foam, tiny pieces of black foam. For that first shadow box, I used fake plants on the inside to simulate a jungle. My intention was to do the same thing on the new shadow box, and I did go to the store. I did pick up a couple of plants. These were on sale, so I did not pay this price, but I grabbed these. I figured if I pop these tops off, I might be able to use this as a tree. And ultimately, it was actually on the drive home from this shopping trip. Then I decided, hey, I've got some sticks in the yard. Why don't I just use some sticks? Then I would have real bark, maybe put bark on a dowel rod. I had some ideas. And when I got home, what I realized was my wife had some bonsai trees, and one of them had unfortunately died. So if I'm making a shadow box, which is a display for tiny humans, action figures, why not use a tiny real tree as well? So I took this one from her collection of bonsais. As I said, this was a bonsai that had died, and I didn't take a picture of it beforehand, but this is the top of it that I cut off here. So you can see it was a tiny tree. And all of this, I took the base because I really liked this moss. This is real moss that's growing at the bottom. I mentioned the dowel rod and bark and moss because if you do want to recreate this, I'm going to suggest not killing a bonsai. And I don't know how many people are going to be in a similar situation where they just happen to have a dead bonsai. So you might be able to recreate this using things in your own yard and a couple of cheap things like a dowel rod. And some moss, maybe from a hobby store or model train set. Fake moss exists, that's all I'm saying. You might be able to recreate this on your own and not have an actual real tree in your shadow box. So once I got the photo glued in there, the rest was just cutting the tree down to size, and I did stick a couple of pieces of foam at the top of it just to hold it in place. I think it looks good. I don't intend on keeping this. Berg doesn't know this, but I am giving this to him once he has it. As I said, it was created with the intention of the Wolfman, but it's a forest scene. You can put anyone you want in there. And I did make this one a bit larger because my original shadow box I was using an SH Figure Arts Predator, who is a bit shorter. And for this, I was intending to use a NECA figure, so I went with a larger box. This is not the Wolfman, clearly, but it should be about the right height, and that's how much space you'd have around and above. I think it's a good size. I'm going to be seeing Berg tomorrow. My intention is to give this to him at that time, and I'm trying to film this in a hurry. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything. It's a pretty simple process, really. I mean, you half dismantle the shadow box, taking out the foam and the wood slats, print out a stock photo in this case, just glue that in there, and then put in whatever your 3D effect is. Done. A little bit of foam just for spacing, but if you get a different style of shadow box, then you'll have a groove and you won't even have to deal with that. I still have ideas about what I'm going to do next. One of those is to get a large box for 2 Dragon Ball figures and do a desert scene. I think for that I would wind up using foam and then carve out some rock pillars and something like that. And so far I just haven't messed with carving foam in that way. I've used a tiny, just the simplest amount of foam, just rectangles painted black, but as far as like carving anything, I haven't done that. I do want to start, but so far I haven't. But yeah, I've got ideas for more of these. I don't know when, maybe when the lightning strikes again, I will do another video. Until then, that has been it for this episode. Dan and I have plenty of additional customs. You might see one in the background throughout this video that we are working on. Should have a regular flow of new content. So like, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions. I hoped I answered all of the questions from the previous video in this one. But if I did miss anything, drop a comment below and I will try to answer. Thanks for watching.